Ready for a transition?
Let me hear it. I'm always a fan of transitions.
Panthers fans, get out of here with your asking for Haason Reddick and Matthew Judon.
Oh, okay. There you go. Coming in hot.
Panthers are not buyers. They should not be buyers. Stop getting excited about buying opportunities. There is one place the Panthers can look for something to buy. The ultimate discount rack. We've all been there, right? Walk into a store. You're like, all right, nobody even look at anything unless it says 50% off, right? That's where the Panthers are. Haason Reddick, former Panther, who's had a few good seasons since playing in Carolina, demanded a trade from the Jets, and Panthers fans immediately, I want him back. And you know what? Maybe we even contributed to this. Because here on this show, we've been talking about how the opposite edge rusher, where there's Jadeveon, Clowney, and then there's one on the other side, is one of the glaring weaknesses on the Panthers roster. Just unproven after unproven, especially if DJ Wanham isn't healthy. So then a pretty good edge rusher like Haason Reddick demands a trade, and it's light bulbs, right? We need an edge rusher. There's an edge rusher. Trade. Make it happen.
Open market.
And then a report emerges that Matthew Judon, reportedly the Patriots are fielding calls on Matthew Judon because he's going into the last year of his contract. It's another edge rusher. Panthers fans are like, perfect, 2 options. Bring them on in. But now I am immediately responding in my own way saying, no, you don't want him. The Panthers are not in the business of tying up their future in any way in exchange for improvements to this year's team. If you can improve this year's team off the bargain basement, off the clearance rack, and it doesn't cost you any part of your future, great. Great. If it involves a long-term contract, which is obviously what Haason Reddick wants, right, which is why it's not working out in the Jets. If it involves a big money long-term contract that ties up your cap next offseason, don't do it. If it involves trading a future pick, even if it feels like a throwaway mid-round pick, don't do it. The Panthers are not in the business of being buyers right now. They're in the business of looking for diamonds in the rough. Haason Reddick is great. Matthew Judon is great. We know what they do. We know who they are. And you're going to have to pay the price. Right? The most extreme example, worst example might be the way to put it. The most extreme example of this thinking is the Panthers thought they were a quarterback away from a Super Bowl. That's what Frank Reich and Scott Fitterer and that group believed. They were a quarterback away. So they traded a whole bunch of future stuff for the current, meaning they traded a whole bunch of future picks, a whole bunch of young players in exchange for Bryce Young right now. Look how that turned out. Turns out you weren't a quarterback away, and now that trade is going to go down as one of the 3 to 5 worst trades in NFL history. Now, don't do that even if it's on a smaller scale. If you buy a 30-something edge rusher, which, by the way, Matthew Judon's already in his 30s, and I believe Haason Reddick will turn 30 right at the beginning of September, so early in this year. If you buy a 30-something edge rusher, you do that when you are an edge rusher away from contention. The Panthers are not an edge rusher away from contention. They are far away from contention. Now, they are close to improvement. They're close to being better than they were last year. They are within an arm's reach of being competitive in significantly more games than they were competitive in last year. There's steps to move in the right direction, but you can't pass up the opportunity to maximize future resources with something that's going to help you this year.
And you essentially don't want to pay for the Jets' mistakes as far as not putting Reddick in a schedule or in a not glorified contract, but in a set contract going into his season playing with them.
No one's going to make that mistake again. Whoever trades for Haason Reddick, whether it's the Panthers, which I hope it's not, or anyone else, is going to have a contract agreed upon before they trade for him, or else the Jets will just keep him.
Only the Jets would make a mistake like that.
It is very Jets-like. But also it looks like they're going to play hardball now, which kind of changes everything else up. So We'll see how it goes. Now, here's the hard part. The part that is just logically not going to work with what I'm saying, because I just went 5 minutes pretty aggressively to start the show on do not bring in these edge rushers. The problem with their defense, if there is a problem, the defense is solid. The problem with their defense is still that edge rusher position. It is still vital that you fill that edge rusher position, or that somebody steps up and plays above the way we think they'll play to make that edge rusher position not a weakness. It's just fixing your weakness for this season is not worth taking the opportunity to fix a weakness for next season or the season after. Ejiro Evero, the defensive coordinator, spoke to the media about Jadeveon Clowney, the one edge rusher we feel good about leading that pass rushing group.
Well, we feel really good about the group. Clowney, obviously, his resume speaks for itself, but the group is doing a heck of a job. And they're inexperienced, but there's a lot of talent there, and they're working hard. They're improving. And when I look at where we started off in the spring compared to where they are now, and how they performed in that first preseason game, we've seen a lot of growth from a lot of the young guys. And so, got to give a lot of kudos to Eku, who's done a really good job. DJ Johnson has shown improvement. Luigi shown improvement. So it's been fun to watch them develop.
If that's what you're going to have to roll with, that's what you're going to have to roll with. That's where the roster is right now. Now, if I were running the Panthers, I would set it up so the young guys get the first chance. You're searching for a diamond in the rough. How awesome would that be? Right now, I'm thinking either next year or the year after, you're going to have to use a high draft pick or a bunch of free agent money on an edge rusher to fill that Brian Burns-sized hole in your cornerstone of your franchise. How awesome would it be if you stumble into one, right? Somebody that is cut by another team early in training camp or even late in training camp that you like, and you have the first waiver position, so you claim him, you bring him over, turns into a star, turns into a starter, maybe not even a star, but a starter. All right, cool. Now you don't have to worry about that next year. And, oh, by the way, you saved yourself $28 million. That $28 million becomes a right tackle. That $28 million becomes a cornerback, a linebacker, and a safety. Whatever it is, that's what you are about with your roster right now. So as tempting as it is to say we need an edge rusher, there's an edge rusher, you have to include the price. Right? It's no different than any other economic market, right? You can see something you want, you don't say I'll buy it until you hear the price. That's it. I'll take it. $4 billion. Never mind. That's what it kind of feels like for the Panthers. And yesterday we went through it right here on the show, right? Haason Reddick demanded a trade yesterday. We brought it up. We want him. And then I went, whoa, let's think about this. How much is it going to cost? What is the draft capital that they're going to want back in a trade? How long is the contract extension for a player who's going to be in their 30s pretty much as soon as he steps into your facility? Let's talk about the price. They do need an edge rusher. They're not going to find it on the top shelf. Find it in the bargain basement if you find it anywhere.